Hello students, let us know about the functions and sources of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Before I introduce you carbohydrates, proteins and fats, let us know what are these carbohydrates, proteins and fats called. They are called as macronutrients. Let us understand what are nutrients. Nutrients are the substances needed for growth, metabolism and other body functions. And the word macro means large. Hence, carbohydrates, proteins and fats are the nutrients which are needed in larger amounts. Why are they needed in large amounts? Because as I told you in the very first statement, they are needed for energy, growth and metabolism. The human system, for sustainability, we require energy in day-to-day life, and to meet the wear and tear means of the body, growth is inevitable, and also the metabolic activities, likewise basal metabolic rate and also other bodily functions. So let us see what are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the chemical compounds that contain carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. In the food we eat, carbohydrates are in the form of sugars, starches and fibers. So simple carbohydrates include monosaccharides and disaccharides, which are found in table sugar, honey, milk and fruits. Apart from simple carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates are also found in nature, which are polysaccharides, which include glycogen in animals and starches and fibers in plant sources. So sources of starch and fiber in the diet include whole grain products, legumes, vegetables and fruits. So what does these carbohydrates do? When we eat the food, the basic function of the food is to give energy and to sustain the life by aiding in growth and metabolism. Major energy source of body is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates provides readily available source of energy. And the lipids are the group of compounds which are concentric source of energy. We just have to make the difference. Carbohydrates are the readily available source of energy, but whereas lipids are the concentric source of energy. Proteins are the structural components which aid in the transport of nutrients between the cells. So for what the carbohydrates are used by the body? The primary function of carbohydrates is to supply energy. Each gram of carbohydrate provides 4 kilocalories of energy. The brain and the central nervous system only depend on the glucose source of the body. Glucose is the simplest form of carbohydrate which will aid in the provision of energy. Inevitably, brain can use only glucose as the source of energy. They also supply reserve fuel. So when glucose is found in excess in the blood, it would be stored in the form of glycogen. It is stored in muscle and liver. During the fasting stage, when no food is given, liver glycogen is the first resource which comes for rescue for the body metabolic process. So it acts as the reserve fuel of the body. Carbohydrates has the sparing action on proteins. The word sparing action in the sense, proteins are considered as one of the major nutrients which are the structural components of the cell. So they usually are oxidized for the body metabolic processes. So carbohydrates aid in the muscle growth, thereby they get oxidized to provide the necessary fuel reserves for the body. Hence they has the capacity to spare the proteins. They also provide the chemical framework. While combining with nitrogen, they also can synthesize non-essential amino acids. Carbohydrates give the chemical framework to synthesize the non-essential amino acids in the body, and they aid in the oxidation of fats. So as we discussed, lipids are the concentric source of energy. During the days of starvation, when there is no carbohydrate source, lipids come for the oxidation, and the lipid products, oxidized products include ketone bodies or the keto acids, which has to enter the TCA cycle or pyruvic acid cycle. For their oxidation in the pyruvic acid cycle, 4 carbon compound oxaloacetic acid or malic acid is required, which comes only from the carbohydrate reserve of the body. They also, carbohydrates has another function, major function, which prevent ketosis. Ketosis, it is a metabolic condition which will result by an elevation of ketone bodies in the blood. So what are the ketone bodies? They are the byproducts of fat metabolism or lipid metabolism, which include acetone, acetoacetic acid and beta hydroxybutyric acid. Their accumulation in the blood may result in the acidic nature of the blood. Usually blood has got a pH around 7.35 to 7.45, which is slightly alkaline in nature. But by the oxidation of fats, the accumulation of the products of fat metabolism, that is the ketone bodies, will lower the pH, which will result in the acidic pH of the blood. This acidic nature of the blood has other health implications which can be prevented by using carbohydrates as the reserve source of energy. So it also aid in prevention of ketosis, and there are many special functions which can be catered by the carbohydrates, and one such special function include synthesis of nucleic acids. As we know, nucleic acids are the major acids which will aid in the sustainability of life. So nucleic acids are synthesized and their major component is a 5 carbon compound pentose sugar, which can be synthesized from carbohydrates. Through HMP pathway, ribose sugar can be synthesized, and lactose, which is a disaccharide also called as milk sugar, it provides galactose, which is again a hexose molecule or a monosaccharide which aids in the development of brain. It will aid in the synthesis of myelin sheath, which protects the neurotransmission process. And it aids, lactose is a sugar which aids in the absorption of calcium and phosphorus. So calcium and phosphorus are needed for bone growth and also maintenance. Lactose in another way suppress the activities of putrefacitive bacteria, which protects from undesirable effects of the bacteria, putrefacitive bacteria, which has undesirable effects. Carbohydrates are also the important compounds of immunopolysaccharides. As we know, immunology is nothing but the resistance to infection. So carbohydrates form an important part of the immunoglobulins. Carbohydrates are also the compounds of a nerve tissue, galactolipid, and also heart valve, cartilage, bone, skin, and as many organs and cells of the body. So they are needed for ensuring complete metabolism of fats, thus preventing acidosis, prevent dehydration, and also aids in maintenance of electrolyte balance. And also carbohydrates aid in defecation of soft bulky stools, which may be a hindrance, and otherwise it may result in constipation problem. So the fibers, the polysaccharides found in the foods, also called as fibers, aid in the absorption of water like a sponge, which will aid in easy defecation. The simple sources of carbohydrates are sugars, which includes glucose is the simplest sugar, usually also called as carbohydrate currency of the body. Fructose, which is sweetest sugar of among all the sugars, it is found in cane sugar, juices and honey. Galactose is the constituent of milk sugar, that is lactose, and we also have double sugars or disaccharides. The example is sucrose, which is found in beet sugar and cane sugar. Maltose is another disaccharide which is found in certain vegetables as well as in beer and other confectionery process. Honey is a double sugar which is, unlike table sugar, contains small amounts of certain vitamins and also minerals. And the complex sources of carbohydrates include starches and cellulose. Starches forms the basic of human diet. They are found in cereals, pulses and legumes. And cellulose is an indigestible constituent of carbohydrate, Though it has no nutritive value, it contributes to the dietary fiber, thereby raising the bulk of stools. Carbohydrates, though these are found naturally, there are also certain refined carbohydrates which are present in the supermarkets. So, these include candies, carbonated drinks, beverages likewise soda, syrups and table sugar. These are the refined sugars which provide only calories, but they lack in vitamins and minerals and also fibers. So, these are the sources of carbohydrates. So, let us understand what are proteins. Proteins are the building blocks of life. They are needed for repair and also maintenance of body. They are the building blocks of life. Every organ is made up of proteins, which in turn contains amino acids. Amino acids are again classified as essential, non-essential and conditional amino acids. Essential amino acids are not synthesized by the body. They have to be provided through the diet. Hence, they are called as essential amino acids. The examples of essential amino acids can be histidine, isoleucine, leucine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, valine, tryptophan. Non-essential amino acids are synthesized from the essential amino acids if provided in the diet. These include alanine, asparagine, aspartic acid, glutamic acid. We have number of around 200 plus amino acids available in nature, but among them only 9 amino acids are categorized as essential amino acids, which has to be supplied through the diet, and once if their requirements are met, the synthesis of non-essential amino acids would be taken place, and there are certain amino acids which are called as conditional amino acids, which are required at times of illness and stress, and the examples include arginine, glutamine, ornithine, proline, tyrosine. These are few. So, we require to be called as a complete protein. It's a mixture of essential, non-essential, conditional amino acids. So, only if the diet is provided with all the essential amino acids as per the requirement, the non-essential amino acids can be synthesized, as well the conditionally essential amino acids can be synthesized, and the complete proteins aid in growth, repair and maintenance of the body functions. So, let us look into the functions of the proteins. The very first function is growth, repair and maintenance. As it is termed that proteins are the building blocks of the body, proteins also aid in the synthesis of vital compounds, likewise hormones and enzymes which are required to regulate the body processes. Otherwise, diabetes is a metabolic disorder which would be evident in case if insulin is deficient, and for the proper synthesis of insulin, body should have complete requirement of proteins to be met. Now, it involves interaction of organs such as pancreas and also liver. We also have a protein called as secretin, which is an example of protein hormone. This assists in the digestive processes by stimulating the pancreas, and it creates necessary digestive juices in the intestines. So, proteins aid in the regulation of all the vital body processes. As well, apart from hormones, there are certain enzymes which are protein in nature, which will increase the rate of chemical reactions which happens in the body. Every second there are hundreds of chemical reactions happening. All these would be efficiently proceed only with the presence of enzymes, and enzymes are protein in nature. To name a few, we have all the digestive secretions, likewise trypsin, chymotrypsin, all these are pancreatic secretions which aid in the digestion processes of the carbohydrates. Also, proteins regulate the water balance. The third major function of proteins is to regulate water balance. As we all know, serum albumin is one of the major proteins which is found in the blood plasma, which is responsible to maintain the osmotic pressure, thereby it regulates the fluid balance in the body. The fourth function include maintenance of acid-base balance. So, proteins act as a buffers. So, they has the capacity to donate either hydrogen ion or hydroxide ion. Thereby it maintains the blood pH and prevents either acidosis or alkalosis, which can cause death. Proteins also act as a carrier molecule. As we all know, the transport of nutrients across the membranes, likewise fat molecules which are insoluble in the aqueous solution, requires protein components to be transported across the aqueous membranes or the cells. Lipoproteins are one such example. Also hemoglobin, which is a protein, aids in the transport of oxygen throughout the body. And we also have proteins which has the capacity to store certain molecules. The best example is ferritin molecule, which is a protein which can combine with iron and aids in the storage of this iron compound in the liver, which usually happens in the infant stages. And immune functions, as we all know, proteins are the components of immunoglobulins, which has the capacity to produce antibodies and helps to fight against infections and illness. Proteins aid in maintaining the integrity of body structures. So here the proper functioning of muscles and healthy formation of connective tissue, all these requires. The major proteins are the contractile proteins, likewise actin and myosin fibers, which aid in the contraction of the muscle. There are other specific functions, likewise nucleoproteins govern the synthesis of all the body proteins. All the body proteins include the hormones, enzymes, digestive secretions, and all these specific compounds can be synthesized from the nucleoproteins. Proteins serve as the source of energy, and this is not really the welcoming phenomena. The protein comes for rescue only during the stage of starvation. The last resource of energy is protein, because protein has many major functions, hence it has to be utilized for all these vital functions. And when the body undergoes the starvation process where the brain cannot utilize fat as a source of energy, protein in the form of glycogenic amino acids, which has the capacity to produce glucose, would render glucose, thereby it is used as the source of energy. And 1 gram of protein yields 4 kilocalories of energy, same as the carbohydrate. So this utilization of protein aids in the loss of muscle, weakens the body, and also it retards the growth and development. So if we look at the sources of proteins, the proteins are available in nature in the form of animals and plants. Animal proteins include milk, meat, egg, fish, all which are found in nature are all protein sources. And plant sources include pulses, cereals, beans and nuts. And soya bean is one of the richest source of plant protein, which accounts to around 40% of protein in the diet. Defatted oil seeds also contribute around 50 to 60% of protein to the diet. Fruits and vegetables, if you look in, they are the poor sources of proteins. Let us know what are fats and what are the functions of fats. As we have already learnt, fats are the major energy stores of the body. Now when I say they are the stores, they are stored in the adipose tissue, which is a specific tissue which has the capacity to store fats. So fats are also present underneath the skin as the subcutaneous fat, and also it is present in between the internal organs. Thus these fats aid in maintaining the temperature of the body. It is called as an insulating material. It prevents the movement of temperature, body temperature, from internal organs to the external temperature. As well, it maintains a particular temperature of the body. So let us look in what are the functions of fats. They are the major energy reserve, which is used as a backup in cases where carbohydrates are not available. Each gram of fat can provide 9 kilocalories of energy. So if you look in, if you compare, it has the double capacity to provide the energy when compared to carbohydrates, which are the readily available source of energy. Fats are as another important function, aid in the absorption of vitamins. As we all know, in the nature there are two kinds of vitamins, water soluble vitamins and fat soluble vitamins. Water soluble vitamins can be soluble in water, which can be absorbed, but fat soluble vitamins requires fat as a medium, and the examples of these include vitamin A, D, E and K. Hence, the fats aid in the absorption of these particular fat soluble vitamins, which aid or promote in good vision, helps in the absorption of calcium by aiding in the absorption of vitamin D. Vitamin E is required for free radical functions for protecting the cells, and vitamin K helps in blood clotting. Fats also act as the insulators. Subcutaneous fat, which is present underneath the skin, prevents the heat loss from the body. Hence, it aids in the insulation of the body by keeping heat inside, and this minimum body temperature is necessary for all the hormones and enzymes to be active and to continue with the metabolic processes. In addition to insulating, fats can also protect the inner core of the body from extreme temperature changes. As we have discussed, fat acts as a protector because a layer of fat is surrounding the very vital organs. Major organs include the brain and the heart. Fats has a protective cushioning structure which can hold these vital organs in position and then protect them from physical shock. Fats can keep our cells healthy because being the component of the cell membrane, it can protect the cell. Fat aids in various many regulatory functions. Hence, it will protect the cells, and also it is required for process of building new cells. And being the compound of brain cells, fats form the myelin sheath which protects the nerve fibers, and during the transmission of the impulses, they aid in the insulation. They support the transmission of impulses from point to point. So, the strength of the impulse would be maintained throughout the conduction process of these nervous stimuli. Fats are the important compounds of hormones. As few hormones are protein in nature, other few hormones which are synthesized in the body are also steroidal in nature, and these steroid hormones require fat as one of the component. Some of the examples include prostaglandins known as eicosanoids, which perform the functions likewise regulation of blood pressure and also maintenance of reproductive cycle and induction of blood coagulation. So, fats are used as a component of hormones, and as a component of hair and skin, fats aid in the regulating of absorption of vitamins, likewise vitamin A, D, E and also K. Fats play a very vital role in the diet, as the satiety, which is a component which is a factor of fullness, can be felt only when fats are added to the diet. So, it also adds palatability to the diet. Now, if you look at the food sources, the fats are present in the major sources include visible sources include nuts and oil seeds, which are the excellent sources of fat, and the visible fats are butter, ghee and also oil, which are found in day-to-day life. Other food groups likewise cereals, pulses, milk and eggs, these are the invisible sources of fats. Vegetables and fruits are the poor sources of fats. There is one exception, that is avocado fruit, called also as butterfruit. So, fats which are found in nature are of two types, saturated and unsaturated fats. Both are needed for the body. Saturated fats are found in butter, cheese, milk, other creams. Unsaturated fats are found in vegetable oils, likewise coconut oil, palm oil, bran and other byproducts of cereals. We have to remember that both the sources of fat, whether it be saturated or the unsaturated forms, are required to maintain the bodily functions and to maintain the integrity of the tissues. So, these are the major functions and sources of carbohydrates, proteins and fats, which are also called the proximate principles, which aid in regulation of body processes. Thank you.